Well, I finally wore out my last pair of titles, and you can kind of see there, right? Wore out there. It's just a flex point on the shoe, and because it's a synthetic and not leather, it wears out faster. Some of the stitching was coming apart, and it started wearing down in the heel, and you can see most of the tread has worn off. They were okay shoes. I didn't like them as much as the previous ones. I'll put the links for those reviews below. I'm not remembering the titles right now. These were okay, but one of my complaints, if you remember in the old video, is how pointy this toe is. Human feet are not shaped like this, and it is a mistake to make shoes pointed like this, especially for athletics. It's not kind to your feet, and you're going to perform less well when your feet are bound, right? So I opted for a pair of Hayabusas. Now, there's nothing magical about Hayabusa. Hayabusa is kind of like DeWalt in the tool world. It's a name brand that people recognize, but it's probably overpriced for the quality. Definitely still just home gamer stuff. It's just home gamer stuff that lets you feel like you're not buying cheap. It's kind of like going to Target instead of Walmart. These are $100 shoes as opposed to, I think these were 75, 80, something like that. Whereas the previous title ones were, I think, 40, 45 bucks. And prices are fluctuating all the time, so don't quote me on the prices. Now, what I find interesting about these Hayabusas is they have the precisely same sole as the titles. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see this because the camera's focus is not good, but it has this kind of like dragon scale, snake scale kind of texture on the bottom. I like that because it gives grip, but it still allows you to pivot. But you can see that is the same sole. The only difference is this one has a title logo and this one has a Japanese character, which I don't know which character that is. And then obviously the biggest difference is the branding. You have the Hayabusa bird thing and then this kind of classic looking stuff up here and then on the back heel. I'm not a big fan of branding. It's one of the things that I liked about these titles is it had very low profile branding. I much prefer low profile branding. It's one thing like if you are part of a club, if you're part of a school or something, like wearing your organization's logo and badge to represent the organization is one thing. But just for consumer goods, like big flashy logos are really, really irritating. And it just kind of ruins the aesthetic of the thing. I mean, it just makes you look like a walking billboard. It's terrible. All right. So as far as fit and finish goes, I mean, these are extremely similar. Even the mesh I think on the Hayabusa is a little bit more, I don't want to use the word coarse, more open pore. But they are plusher and they're cushier. And, plus or minus there. One thing I do like is, I don't think it's actual suede. I'm pretty sure this is all synthetic. But it has this kind of suede toe on it, which again is going to make it useful for, these are my street shoes because I like really minimalist shoes, and I think minimalist shoes are just ugly as hell. And hey, aesthetics are important. So I wore wrestling shoes for years, and ASICS started changing their fit and finish, making things way too tight. I have wide feet, and then my 2 feet are slightly off-sized of each other, which makes buying shoes hard. And then ASICS had a pointy toe as well, so I switched to boxing boots, and the boxing boots have been okay, but it's hard to find some because I don't want a wedge in the heel, and that brings me to another point. So these come with this insert. Now, the insert is pull outable, which is fine. There's still a bit of a wedge there, but it's super cushy, and I'll probably change it out, but that's forgivable. What I found was unforgivable is underneath that was this kind of harder foam wedge. Look at that's like an Olympic lifting shoe. That is way too much of a wedge. we're not built to walk up on our toes like that. Like, even if you're boxing and whatever, all it's going to do is encourage you to actually just settle your heels down. Even though it's going to tilt your weight forward, it's still going to make you settle your heels down to try to keep your balance, which is going to kind of deactivate your ankles. And it's a stupid idea. Just wear flats. Like, seriously, just wear flats. So anyway, these are basically like the same kind of construction. They are a little bit more expensive than the titles. But the biggest reason I went with them is look at this toe box. It is so much more ergonomic. It's not quite as good as the Merrells that I used to have, which were, trail running shoes. And again, I don't like low tops, which is why I moved away from the minimalist scene, because it's very hard to find good high tops in minimalist shoes, and then they tend to be overpriced and they're ugly. So like, it's just like losing on three fronts there. But these Hayabusas have a really nice rounded, wide toe box, which for my wide feet, I almost feel like I didn't actually need to order a size up like I normally do. They're really, like, because of the wide feet and my offset feet, I only need like a half size up. But because my right foot's a 12 and my left foot is a little bit over a 12, and nobody makes a 12 and a half, I can't do that. So I end up wearing 13s because weird feet. This makes it so much better, and they fit nicely on my feet. And again, they're cushy and plush, whereas the titles were not quite as so. They were a little thinner, which I don't mind a thin shoe at all. But comfort's not nothing. Now, I will say, though, I am fully anticipating that they will wear in the same spot. That is a consistent wear pattern for me because I bend my feet a lot because I walk and run and jump and do stuff like that, which means that I end up with a consistent crimp point, which is going to wear the fabric out faster. And because it's this thin mesh stuff, it's fine. I can patch it, which I've done before. I didn't opt to do that on these because I was wearing out the sole and stuff. So it's nice to have the new ones. But anyway, so far, especially because of the sole, these are honestly, I think they're worth the money, just for the fact that they have a nice wide toe box. They fit well. The branding's not obscene, and they have that nice grip but still pivoting surface. I still think that the gentle stippling on the first titles that I had, man, what were those called? Speed Flex, right? The Speed Flex Encore or something like that. Those would have been absolutely perfect as mat shoes for Savate. They were not suitable for street shoes because they didn't have anything coming up slightly up over the edge, which means that you ended up actually wearing out the upper because there was no sole coming up over the edge. And because of these having that sole coming up over the edge, I would be worried about using these to practice any shod kicking on an opponent, at least without kick pads on. I mean, if you throw those, pro wrestling style kick pads on, then it's probably okay again. So you gotta play with that and how you want to play with it. But so far, first impressions, I've had these for 2 days. First impressions, though, these are not bad, and I mean, $100 isn't bad. That's decent. That's decent money for an okay shoe. That's it's honestly probably like a $65 shoe, but because it has the name brand on it, they can sell it for $100. But if it lasts about a year, which is what I generally get out of shoes, then it's worth it. Look, I want you to think of it this way: when you buy shoes, think about it like what you're paying per month, like amortize out the cost. If you were to pay $120 for a pair of shoes that last a year, which is, for me, that's a common wear out period, that's $10 a month, right? It's 12 months, $10 a month, $120. So honestly, anything under $120 is not a bad price, because $10 a month, you spend that on all sorts of throwaways. So quite honestly, you can spend $120 on a pair of shoes. Just save your pennies and You know, so anything in that ballpark is fine. You start getting over that though, and like it has to last more, right? Because if right now we're seeing that you can get away with a year's worth of shoe for, you know, let's say 60 to $100, then paying more than 100, 120 should be demanding more shoe, more life out of the shoe, better quality, more comfort, you know, better specs, better fit, all of that, right? But for off the shelf, it's not bad. For having weird feet and not wanting to buy customs, not bad. So I guess that's all for this, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Hey, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, do all the other social media stuff. You can check out our other socials, as well as take a look at some of the merchandise that we have for offer in the links below. And if you happen to be in the Phoenix metro area, stop in, come in for a class, come in just to say hi. We'd love to meet you. Until next time, good journey.